Hello everyone. In this video, we will be talking about how to navigate through your files on your operating system. So first of all, we need to talk about what computer you have. So most likely you either have a MacBook or one of the Apple products, so then you're running Mac OS, or you have a Windows computer and that's running Windows. OS just stands for operating system. The operating system is what ties together all of the hardware components we discussed in one of the previous videos. So the SSD or the hard drive, the RAM, and the processor are all tied together physically and also through software called the operating system. So Windows and Mac are just two different operating systems. There's another operating system called Linux, but if you're just starting out in programming, I highly doubt you're using a Linux computer. Some of you might be using a Chromebook, and Chromebooks are kind of weird. Downloads don't happen very frequently on a Chromebook, like not many people download softwares onto a Chromebook, and the operating system is not as strong as Mac or Windows. So if you plan to program on a Chromebook, then I would recommend going onto YouTube and searching up how to navigate through folders and files on your Chromebook. But if you're on Mac and Windows, you can definitely watch this video, understand how files and folders work, and how you can navigate through that. So the first part of the video is going to be about Mac OS and how to use Finder, which is the file navigation tool for Mac. And the second video will be about Windows and how to use File Explorer, which is the navigation tool for Windows. So how you can use that tool to find different folders and files, create new files, as well as delete them on your Windows machine. So before we start talking about different operating systems and file navigation systems that are unique to these different operating systems, let's start off by discussing what files and folders are. So everything that's on your computer, you can think about as a file. So Google Chrome or any web browser that you use is a file on your computer or a culmination of many files. These files can be put into different folders, and the cool thing is that you can create your own files. So if you use Microsoft Word or any other tool that's not on the cloud and instead on your computer, then everything you create with that tool will be a separate file. For example, all of the programming you do, whether you're in Mac or Windows, is generally going to be on your laptop and not on the cloud. However, if you are using a Chromebook, most of your code will be done on the cloud. We will discuss these tools in more depth in the text editors video that is coming up. Anyways, you need to understand how to navigate through these files, since all of your programs, all the code that you type, will be written in these files. So if you're on Mac, watch the first part of this video, and if you're on Windows, skip to the timestamp on the screen and watch that second part of the video. So if you're on Mac, the tool you should be using in order to navigate through your files and folders is called Finder. To pull up Finder, just press Command Space to open up your Spotlight search and type in Finder. Once you type in Finder, this should lead you to your home directory or your home page. Nobody usually goes through all of this tedious work to get to their main directory where they store stuff, but if you wanted to, you can click on Macintosh HD, click on Users, choose whatever user you're signed in as, and then navigate over to your desktop where your code is usually stored. However, Mac comes pre-built with some favorite folders. So this desktop folder is the same as this desktop folder you see on the left. It's just bookmarked so that you can access it much easier. Instead of going through all of this, you can just click on that desktop icon. So if we click there, you see that we enter the desktop, which is currently empty. However, all the courses on this platform will generally store our code on the desktop. This is truly a personal preference, but it just helps us access our code easier. This is where I would recommend you store all your program files when you start programming. This entire step of storing files and creating new files will be skipped over in all of our courses, so that's why it's important to watch this entire course, because it sets you up with all the prerequisites to all of our other courses. One of the reasons why your desktop or your Finder window might not look like this is because you have a different view selected. So if you click on Finder and select this view button at the top, you can choose as icons, as list, as columns, and as gallery. I have as columns selected, but this again is personal preference. The thing with Mac is it allows for a lot of customizability, at least with your windows and your appearances. So that's why many of the things might look slightly different, but I'll make sure to point those differences out as we go through the course. So this is your desktop window. So if we navigate over to the AirDrop folder, this is where you can AirDrop things to other Apple devices. You can see my iPhone is right here. And although my iPhone isn't connected to my Mac directly, it's connected through the same network. So I'm able to AirDrop files, images, and videos to my phone. Next up, we have the Recents folder. This is where everything you opened up recently will pop up. So this helps with big programming projects where you work on everything daily because you can open up your previous day's file and just get started. Next up, we have the Applications folder. This is where all your apps are going to be stored. Any app you create, you can obviously drag it into Applications. And also, you can, any of the apps you download for coding purposes, like VS Code, which you'll learn about later, will be stored in this Applications folder. Next up, we have the desktop that we viewed recently. And then we have Documents. Documents is another place where you can store your code. Of course, if you're programming a microcontroller, especially the Arduino, then this is where all your programs are going to be stored. If you don't know what a microcontroller is or what an Arduino is, no worries. Those are just different chips that you can program and create cool projects with. So if you're not familiar with the Arduino, we might create a course on it on the future. So check the card above to see if there's any sort of course on the Arduino or microcontrollers themselves. Next up, we have the Downloads folder. Anything you download off the internet is probably going to end up in your Downloads folder. And the cool thing about folders is you can drag from one to the other. For example, let's say I create a new folder called Test on my desktop and I decide I want it in my Documents folder. Then I can physically drag it and drop it into Documents. And now it's in Documents and disappeared from desktop. And then obviously, once I'm done with it, I can just move to trash. So then we have the Downloads folder. Like I said, this is where your downloads will be stored. And then lastly, you can see I have a Folders folder and a C++ folder. These are both folders that I created. They don't come pre-built with the Mac. However, I decided to drag them into this Favorites menu so that I could access them easily. The recent programming I've been doing is in the language C++, so all of that code is in there. And then Folders contains my general folders that I use on a daily basis. In order to take a folder and add it to your Favorites menu, all you have to do is drag it and drop it in. There we go. And now, whenever I'm on another folder, I can quickly access my test folder. That is all you need to know about Finder and how to navigate folders on Mac. Of course, just keep all your files in the desktop area and you'll be safe. Generate your folders there. For example, the next course I'd recommend taking after you watch this course is going to be that Web Development Fundamentals course. So for that course, just store everything in a folder called Web Dev. That way you can stay organized, all your program files are there when you need it, and also as you continue through this platform watching all of our courses, you can create different folders and organize your code in that manner. Okay, so if you're using Windows, the tool you need to use to navigate through folders and files is called File Explorer. It's this folder icon that's probably going to be in the bottom left part of your screen. There's one thing I need to say about my setup. I do all my developing on a Mac, so all the videos in this course will be most likely on a Mac. However, I did have access to this Windows computer, so I took a screenshot of the File Explorer, but this is a Mac, just to let you know. So basically, the place where you need to store your code is in this desktop folder. So just create a new folder by right-clicking, click on New Folder, and then just type in code, and underneath that code folder, you can store all your different files that we create in our courses. So as long as you understand how to navigate through Finder, you should be set for Windows. Let's quickly talk about each of these pre-built folders. You have this desktop folder that's really easy to access, and that's because you don't even need to open up File Explorer to open up things in your desktop. Anything in your desktop should open up on your home screen. Next up, we have your Documents section. Documents is basically just like the desktop, except it only appears in File Explorer. Under Documents, some people like to keep their code. However, I just prefer on my desktop. Next up, we have Downloads. If you download anything from the internet, it's going to end up in this Downloads folder. You can store your music and pictures in these separate folders. I just store it on desktop. And then there's a System C folder. I wouldn't mess with it if I'm a beginner, but you can store your files on there if you want to. I don't recommend touching any of the other folders other than Desktop, Documents, and Downloads, just because you don't need to. You can store all your code within these three folders and not have a problem. If you start messing with the network and System C files, that's when you could start messing up your computer. So I'd recommend just staying away from that, just sticking to Desktop, Documents, and Downloads. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we will be talking about text editors. I'll see you in the next one.